Okay, I will call to order the
Recording in progress.
Okay, now I will call to order the May 11th, 2022 Historic Landmarks Commission meeting. And first, we will have a roll call vote.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair House. I'll go ahead and take roll call. So Chair Grumbine is absent, and we have Vice Chair House.
Here.
Commissioner Butler is also absent. Commissioner Dordan.
Here.
Commissioner Drury.
Here.
Commissioner Manuel.
Here.
Commissioner Uli.
Here.
And Commissioner Lenvik.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. First, a little announcement that I'm chairing today because Chair Grumbine had a partners meeting to go to. And this will be my first time chairing such a meeting. I think I did it once before, but it was just a couple items. So bear with me, and if you have any suggestions, or if I forget something, or I faint, or anything like that, just feel free to jump on in.
Resuscitate you.
Yeah, okay. So the first item of business is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on an agenda, on an item that is not on today's agenda may do so for 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair House and Commissioners. So today is the first day that we'll be doing hybrid public comment. So we'll also be taking public comment by Zoom. So I'll go ahead and start with the virtual public comment and then move on to in-person.
Okay,
So just as a reminder, if anyone wishes to speak in person, please fill out a speaker slip by the back door and bring it to me. But in the meantime, I'll start with virtual public comment. So if any member of the public joining by Zoom would like to speak on an item not on today's agenda, please raise your hand on Zoom to indicate that you would like to speak, and I will call on you. All right, so I don't see any hands raised, so I'll move on to in-person public comment. I haven't received any speaker slips, but we did receive written correspondence from Robert Drews regarding Plaza de la Guerra. And with that, I'll turn it over back to you, Vice Chair House.
okay. Seeing nobody in the audience, I will close public comment. And the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of April 22nd and April 27th. That's the special De La Guerra meeting, and yeah, okay.
So moved. Second.
Okay, a motion by Drury, second by Uli. Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Abstain from both.
and Vice Chair House.
Yes,
All right, motion passes.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent calendar of May 11th, 2022.
Mr. Chair, let's do April 27th.
Yeah, we only did the 22nd minutes.
First.
What did I say?
We did April 22nd, but we also need to do April 27th.
Oh,
for
you
item
need
B.
two motions.
Correct.
Oh, okay, all
Move
right.
to approve
So
minutes
the-
for April 27th.
Okay,
Second.
roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Linvik has no comments.
I don't, but I maybe should ask for comments on the.
Okay, I'll do that. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes?
None.
No. Okay, roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
and Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, so now we're on item C, approval of the consent calendar of May 11th, 2022.
Move approval of the calendar.
Second.
Motion by Uli, second by Drury. Do you want to fill us in on what
Sure.
transpired
Yes,
on our one
I have
item?
One item. Item A was for 2115 Garden Street. The decision was for project design approval with comments, and the project compatibility findings and minor alteration findings were made.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote, please.
All All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
and Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. Staff?
Thank you. I do have a few announcements. Let's see, we'll start with item 2 of today's agenda. It's 222 East Cannon Perdido Street. We will open that item and then continue it to start at 3 o'clock today and no earlier. Item 5 of today's agenda, which is for 524 Chapala Street, has been postponed indefinitely at the applicant's request. And then also, I just wanted to remind the commissioners about the email Ms. Hernandez sent out last week about the California Preservation Foundation's online conference. The city has purchased enough tickets for all commissioners to attend. The conference will be held June 7th through the 9th. And just as a reminder, this historic preservation training, or this type of historic preservation training, is required by each of you annually by the California Office of Historic Preservation, as the city is a certified local government. So I just want to remind you of that, and nothing further from me.
Thank you, and I'll just add some additional clarification. The reason that item 2 is continued to 3 o'clock is because a postcard was sent out that had 3 o'clock as the start time. So that's why. Okay. Anybody else have any announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittee reports? I guess I could say that the Delaware Plaza Revitalization Committee will be having another materials subcommittee meeting coming up next week, I think, at Solid Rock, vendor of stone materials, so we can look at samples of things and further move forward on that subject. Any other subcommittee reports?
I will report on the State Street Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
There have been no meetings since our last Landmarks Commission meeting. Commissioner, you might want to turn your microphone on. Last Landmarks Commission meeting, and we are actually going to forego any meetings in May, June, and July.
Ooh.
And they hope to have the planner selected by then, and council, approve it, and we maybe will be getting active at that time. So we're more or less sitting on our hands right now.
Twiddling your thumbs, as it were.
It's hard to do both. Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, thank you for that. So if there are no further subcommittee reports, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, an archaeology report for 800 Santa Barbara Street. I don't think I'll go through the whole project description. The project has been built. This was a phase 3 to report on archaeological investigation during the course of construction. And need I say more, or is that pretty good?
Maybe you could read what's on slide 2 here. I think that wraps it up. And then
Okay.
Ms. Jones
So
is here.
it's a request for acceptance of a Phase 3 archaeological resources report, data recovery and mitigation, prepared by Michael Mwale, Associate Executive Director of Cultural Resources at the Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation, and David Stone and Lucas Nichols for Wood, Environment, and Infrastructure. The report was reviewed by Dr. Glassow, who agrees with its conclusions and recommendations. And you're here to make a presentation.
Hi, I'm Heidi Jones with Suzanne Elledge's office.
Thank you.
Mr. Mwale and Mr. Stone are supposed to be here
Uh-oh.
to answer questions, so I'm just here to support the review. I can't answer any questions about anything necessarily, other than I understand it's been reviewed internally and there's agreement with the conclusions and recommendations.
Is there a feeling that we should wait for Mr. Mwale or Mr. Stone?
we can give them 3 minutes, I think.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So, relax.
Okay.
Not that you look like you're not relaxed, but,
It's the easiest item ever.
yeah. We like those easy ones.
Vice Chair, Commissioners, I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Julia Peugeot. I'm the environmental analyst. The case planner, Megan Arciniega, couldn't be here today. She's out of the office today.
Thank you. You look and sound like your mom.
Thank you.
Is she working for the city now?
No, she's retired.
Well, I thought I saw something. Yeah, maybe I misread it.
My dad likes to come in and
Yeah, I don't
comment
know.
on things at
Yeah.
my commission.
Yeah. She's not on planning commission anymore, is she?
No,
Yeah.
no. No, she was working at Dawson Williams' office for a little while.
Oh.
Now she's retired, full-time grandma.
Well, that's good. And how's your dad?
Oh, he's great.
Is he still practicing? I haven't seen him in quite a long time.
He is, yes. Part-time.
Yeah,
Yeah, he has a few projects.
yeah. Good. Hello there. Step on up.
Me?
Yeah. We're looking at you.
You're in the hot
We're
seat.
glad you're here.
Is Dr. Stone coming as well?
I don't know. I didn't talk.
He was, yes, he was supposed to.
Yeah. Well, we thought we would pause until the two of you, or at least one of you, showed up to see if you have
At
anything.
least one of I are here.
Yeah. Do you want to dive in and tell us what the process was and if you found anything that we should know about?
The process was,
And here he is.
Perfect.
Well, just a bit. Welcome. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm the person with the tie.
Yes, evidently.
Okay, David Stone.
Thank you. So we started, but you guys weren't here, so we thought we'd pause until you arrived in case there's any summary of the
Thank you.
project you would like to give us.
Well, we understand that Dr. Glassow has approved of the project, so if you would like a very short
Yeah,
summary.
the folks at home, our viewers, would.
Good. So I'll
Appreciate
just
it.
start, Mike, with the process. This is what's called a mitigation, which means the implementation of mitigation measures that were associated with the proposed project. And those mitigations were twofold: for Mike to investigate a previously identified trash pit associated with the mission area, and also to oversee the excavations that occurred associated with the project, and to identify and evaluate any additional resources that were identified during that process. So I'll turn it over to Mike.
so during the initial exploratory trenching.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mwali, could you please turn your microphone on while you're speaking and
Just one little tap on that button
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
There
sorry,
you go.
sorry.
Thank you.
As David said, the first phase of the work was to go in and do exploratory trenches to see if we were to identify any Presidio era features. And we dug 4 trenches, I think, before the previous building was demolished, and then we dug 4 subsequent trenches. We started the data recovery by going back and finishing the excavation of Feature 1, which was identified back in 2009 for the previous project. And we identified 4 new features or 3 features during the trenching process, features 3, 4, and 5, and then a 4th feature, I think, during the monitoring phase. And all 3 of the features were relatively sealed deposits representing the earliest occupation of the Presidio, probably from the 1780s to 1890s. And
1790s. And another feature that spans the Spanish-Mexican period, and then a third feature that was somewhat later that probably was deposited during the later part of the Mexican period, but all associated with the Presidio and all containing artifacts that were either introduced by trade or deposited directly by Chumash, including stone tools, grinding implements. But probably the most remarkable thing about all three of the features were the array of imported ceramics, Mexican Mayolica. There were two types of ceramic identified in feature 3 that we'd never seen here at the Presidio in 63 years of archaeology. We also found 5 maker's marks on the imported Mexican Mayolica, which are extremely rare. There's probably only been 4 or 5 ever identified in North America, in the United States. We found other items of trade. What was the shell? No, remember the big... Yeah. Anyway, we found quite a bit of material that all was associated with the Chumash, including shell beads, glass trade beads, all of which helped narrow down the timeline of these features. So between the 3 features, one dating to the earliest occupation, one to the early Mexican period, one to the later Mexican period, we have deposits that span the entire occupation of the Presidio, and evidence of the way their interaction changed with the Chumash over time, and how the Chumash's use of the surrounding environment changed over time with the introduction of imported ceramics and other types of food groups. So we were able to identify quite a bit of material from the data collection process that was identified in the mitigation plan.
And thanks, Mike. That's awesome. I'll also add 2 things. Number one, not many projects get to this point of archaeological inquiry. Most often, archaeological resources are feasibly avoided, and that's what we're all interested in achieving. In this case, avoidance wasn't possible, and we weren't quite sure of what we were going to find. Mike was also concerned about the potential for structures or the remains of structures associated with Presidio activities outside of the walls.
Right.
And that was one of the key things why we did the trenching. But we did not find evidence of structures, but we did find a wealth of information. And certainly it would appear, according to us archaeologists, that the mitigation process was successful in collecting important information.
And what
to
happens to
construction.
all that material?
Come on by.
Oh.
Sitting in my office.
Sitting in your office,
Yeah, it's
carefully
pretty amazing.
preserved.
We'll be writing an article soon, illustrated article, because there's not really anything like the assemblage of ceramics that came out of those 4 features. I mean, I've almost 2 whole plates laying next to each other at the bottom.
You haven't been eating off them or anything, have you?
Nope.
Good. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I'll just
Mr.
add,
Chair.
Commissioner House, that since we did encounter Chumash period artifacts, there was a representative of the Barbareño tribe during those excavations.
Excellent. Staff, you had something to say?
I just wanted to say we should open public comment before
Oh,
we get
yes,
into
okay.
questions.
So if that
the,
concludes your presentation, I will open public comment. If there's anybody that wishes to speak on this item, seeing no one, I will close public comment.
Excuse me, Vice Chair House. Really quick, I'll just go over virtual public comment and then in-person public comment. So if anyone joining by Zoom would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak, and I will call on you. So I don't see any hands raised over Zoom, so I'll move over to in-person public comment. I haven't received any speaker slips, and we haven't received any written correspondence, so I'll turn it over back to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if there are any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, there's a piece of wall somewhere in that. Isn't there something around the corner going, no?
Commissioner Drury, I think you're confusing this with
Oh, I can
the
be confused.
other property on
East Canaperdito.
East Canaperdito,
Oh, okay.
which is still in front of you and in the process of being.
This
Okay,
is the
thank-
building that was already built at 800
Oh, okay, thank you.
Santa Barbara Street.
All right, thank you.
So,
No, not 800 Santa Barbara Street, Campo Perdido, yes?
No.
800 Santa Barbara.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
so I have a question.
Commissioner Ludwig?
Maybe I wasn't paying close attention. You found localized, in localized areas, you found these resources, as opposed to over the whole site.
Yes.
Trash pits.
So you found identified trash pit areas, and while the entire site was being excavated, you were watching that as well.
Yes.
And saw nothing. Okay. And of course, that trash pit is now buried under construction. So you excavated
It's
it.
hanging in the parking lot underground.
Uh-huh.
At 100% of the lot was over excavated for underground parking.
Okay, okay. So it was left there? You say hanging.
Oh, no, we extracted the entire
Oh,
feature from
okay,
the ground,
right.
but all the soil, the matrix of the whole lot was removed around it. so.
And this report is not available to us.
It was online.
Okay, I apologize. I did not
Okay.
chase it that far. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Then would somebody like to make a motion for approval of the report as submitted?
So moved.
I'll second that.
I think I heard Uli making the motion and Drury making the second. Is that correct? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, thank you. So I'll start with Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes?
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
and Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So easy to conflate,
Yeah.
this, 222 East Campo
Yeah.
Perdido. Oh, good Lord, have mercy.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm sure you will.
I'll be back.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'll wait till 2 o'clock to announce that we're continuing it.
You can open item 2. It is less than 15 minutes before the item.
This is true. Okay, so I am opening item 2 on the agenda, which is 222 East Canon Perdido Street. But we are continuing that item to 3 p.m. because of a mishap in noticing. Anything more need be said?
No, I think that is sufficient. We'll just recess until 2:15.
Okay,
And we'll
so
start
we are
item
in
3.
recess until 2:15.
Thank you.
3, which is a continued item, project design approval for 1426 Alta Vista Road. The existing single-unit residence is on the city's historic resources inventory. It was constructed in 1919 by architect Wallace Neff in the Dutch colonial revival style. Oh, I forgot to turn that on, sorry. You could have just waved your arms at me. I would have figured it out.
You gotta start all over again now. Nobody heard you.
Oh, I projected well, I think, hopefully. And they've got the mics up above. The project proposes a two-story addition to the residence consisting of 268 square feet on the second floor above a covered porch. Pursuant to the municipal code, a sloped lot setback reduction has been applied to the front setback along East Mitchell-Terena Street, reducing the required front setback from 15 feet to 10 feet. All reports can be seen on the city website. Project design approval is requested, project compatibility findings, major alterations for historic resource findings, and hillside design and slope lot findings are required. The city's architectural historian prepared a significance report and memorandum evaluating the project's consistency with the Secretary of Interior standards that were reviewed and accepted at the January 19th, 2022 hearing. The project was last reviewed on January 19th, 2022. So, would you like to give your presentation, please?
Of course, thank you. I'm the applicant. My name is Roxana Bonderson. I have Duffy Smith, architect, here with me today. And we last saw you on January 19th for our first visit to HLC. At that time, we were asked to match the proposed windows to the existing windows to better relate the massing of the dormer on the south side of the addition to the existing dormers on the south elevation, the existing structure itself. To demonstrate this, we were asked to prepare a three-dimensional sketch showing our proposed addition. So we would like to start by first showing you a supplemental drawing that our architect, who's not here with us today, Robert Rich, he put together a document, if we can show that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if I could interrupt 1 second. Mr. Chair, if you could read the previous minutes into the record. Sorry, I forgot to
okay.
have you do that part, and then we can move on to the plans.
Okay, so the motion from, this was January 19th?
Correct.
Okay. It was to continue indefinitely with comments. 1, the commission concurs with the city architectural historian's evaluation of the project. 2, the commission accepts the proposed addition but would like to see further study of the dormer on the south elevation to make it more consistent with the other dormers on the same elevation. 3, provide three-dimensional views to give a better understanding of how the massing relates to the existing building. The action was a motion by myself and second by Uli, 710. Grumbine was opposed. He was opposed because he thought it could have gotten project design approval. But we were all in agreement on what needed resolution.
So this is the supplemental drawing that we created more as a courtesy to help, like a quick view. And is it me that's driving this? Can I scroll
Yes.
it up a little bit? Okay, I'd like to make sure that you can see both the plans. Maybe I can reduce the size just by a tad. Let's see if I make it just a little bit
To the
smaller.
left of
There you
there's
go.
the plus and minus buttons. You can use those as well.
Exactly. Let's see. Maybe that's the best view. It's quite tiny, but you'll see. In order for us to do further study of the dormer that you requested work on the south elevation, we worked both on plan and elevation. As you can see here, the hatch mark, which is quite light on the screen, but it's on the proposed elevation, which is zoomed in on the right side of the sheet. I can use my arrow, perhaps this one here. And down below, you'll see the original, and the way we've amended it is in a slightly darker hatch. I know that seems very small. I'm happy to zoom in, but I'd like to just share with you a few things first. We also have the three-dimensional sketch or rendering that was requested. Again, because they're kind of long, it's hard to zoom in, but I'll do my best. We can maybe have you look at this first one first. I don't know why it's It's using an editing function here, but let's see what I can do.
We're not in a hurry.
We're working this out. Let's see. I don't know why it's giving me a pencil.
Oh.
It must have a. There we go. Yep. Thank you. And let's see if I can zoom in on one of them for your. All right. So, as you know, the far end over here is the proposed addition. Okay.
There's also the proposed new dormers.
Correct. It's the ones over on this end. And if I just bring your attention to it here, it might be easier to understand. This is the addition where you could see the kind of a slight pop out. And so these were the dormers that were requested to have more consistency with the existing ones. So let me read a little bit more about that. We were asked at the last visit, we were asked to reduce the dormers by 6 inches at either end. When we went back and reviewed the design, we ended up reducing it asymmetrically by a total of 2 feet, 7 5/8 inches. So based on this study, we actually ended up agreeing that this reduction provides improvements, aesthetically, as you had suggested. Additionally, if I go back to the supplemental drawing here, you can see those modifications. As I said, they're asymmetric, so it's heavier on the right side, narrower on the left side. That brings it to what it is looking as now. On the floor plan itself, it reduced square footage, as you can imagine.
Can I just interject
Of
here?
course.
Please do.
The one that you
Turn your
highlighted
microphone
right now is actually the existing.
This one?
Yeah, the poche is showing
Yes, it's-
what the wall was
Yeah.
before.
Close on the
Yeah,
left.
you have to turn your
Yeah.
microphone.
Closest.
Yes.
So the poche is, I'm just showing what's come in, like from the original drawing. So
Right.
that's going to be, I can also take you all to the, let's call it the most updated floor plans and elevations. So you can see it without the poche, without the hatch marks. So that's the corner over there. You can now see how it reads more consistently. What else did I want to touch on? I guess that's everything with the dormer. Did you want to add anything?
The fact that it's not closer to the corners is largely because the engineer wants 2x6 walls. So it's about as close as it can get, but slightly more than the existing dormers.
Before I move on to the other topic, is there anything you'd like me to navigate through for you to view?
Mr. Chair,
Anybody?
Can we see the elevation again?
The original one?
The model view? or-
Yes, please.
Oh, the 3D. No problem. So this is,
That one and the one below it, I think.
which one would you like me to stop on here? Of course,
Thank you.
of course.
Yeah, let's keep going with the presentation.
Okay. The only other topic that we talked about the last time, but it's not in the motion itself, but you did ask us to come back with information. You had asked us to find out about the windows and if we could match the windows of the proposed addition to the existing windows. I spoke with Building and Safety to see if they had exercised discretion on that, and they were, they told us they can't do so. All windows have to be double glazed. They have to conform to California's Title 24, so anything new that is going to be added at this time won't match the original windows, but
And that's the main difference, that they're double glazed instead
Yeah.
of single glazed, but the
correct.
width of the sash is very similar.
Correct. So they have wider frames. The profiles are a bit different than the historical windows. The casement of the frames will be painted wood to match the rest of the house, but the actual glazing itself. And did you want to add anything?
Right now, we're looking at a Marvin wood window frame that's about 5/16 of an inch wider than the existing single glazed window frames, which is not so bad, but we're not tied to that choice yet and can keep looking and try to find something that's even better. But it's a reasonable difference from someone that would be down looking up at the windows from a bit
So
of a
we'll
distance.
see if anybody has an issue with that when we get into comments. So it's the sash you're talking about, the rails and styles are about
Yes.
5/16 different.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
How much?
5/16 of an inch.
Do you, we can,
A silly millimeter.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I did confirm with Building and Safety also, and they also told me that on additions to historic buildings, they will
Yeah.
require the energy compliant windows and using the California Historic Building Code to retain the originals on the original portion, but they won't entertain it on the new portions.
Okay.
thank you, Ms. Hernandez.
Okay.
She
Any-
she helped me to get that information as well, so
Yeah.
very
She's
grateful.
very helpful.
Very much. So that's all we have in response to the motions.
Okay.
If you have any questions, we can answer them, but otherwise.
Well, first we have to go into public comment, and I am getting conditioned that we first do
Very
the
good.
Zoom option.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair House and Commissioners. So I'll go ahead and start with virtual public comment. So if any member of the public joining by Zoom would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak, and I will call on you. All right, so I don't see any hands raised for this item, so I'll move over to in-person public comment, but seeing nobody here.
I see a person in the back over there.
Seeing nobody here, and I haven't received any public speaking slips and no written correspondence, I'll turn it over back to you, Vice Chair House.
Okay, thank you. I will close public comment and go into questions from the commission. Then let's segue into comments.
I am not bothered by the 5/16 difference, personally. It is appropriate, I think, to have new windows look the same but not be the same, so that you can distinguish between what is new and what is existing.
Yeah, it was intentionally 5/16 different,
Yeah.
to differentiate them.
I'm supportive of the project. I don't have any general comments other than it's a great improvement.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
I agree with Commissioner Uli. Lovely project and a good faith project as well. Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, I will just add to that I think that you were very successful in your changes to the dormers, and even though, actually it was a bigger change in terms of dimension than I kind of expected it to be, but it significantly looks a lot better, so I think it was a great improvement. So, would somebody like to make a motion for project design approval?
Mr. Chair, if I could interrupt while you
Please.
contemplate. If you do make project design approval findings today, your motion should also state that the commission concurs with the city architectural historian's evaluation of the project.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's already been done. Okay, never mind then.
Never mind. Okay. So, would somebody care to make a motion? Don't all jump in at once.
We're all hesitating because there's a whole laundry list of things
Yeah.
that we've got to read through, and nobody wants to do it.
Okay, then I'll make the darn motion.
Truth comes out.
So I'll make a motion for project design approval, and what do I need to read?
Make it so easy.
Yeah, and this is an indefinite continuance, and you'll put yourself back on the agenda, okay?
Is it going to consent?
I don't see any reason why not, so I'll make a motion that it be continued to consent calendar for final approval. And so, consistency with design.
Second that motion, should we do that?
He's
Oh,
not,
yeah,
he's
let's
done,
get a
he's not
second.
done making it yet. He's has to verbalize all of this
Is this
stuff.
part of the making of the motion?
I
or-
believe so. I
guess
mean,
so.
this is
Yes,
why nobody wants
it
to make the
is,
motion.
Okay, so I'll continue. This is my first time really chairing the whole meeting because the chair is away. so- What's that?
At least you're very.
No, I made the motion. Yeah. Okay. Order in the court, please. Okay, so I am going to make the project compatibility findings. Number one is consistency with the design guidelines. It is consistent with the design guidelines applicable to the location of the project. Compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. It's a minor addition to something that's been a presence in the neighborhood for a long time, so it is compatible. It doesn't have an appreciable effect on the size, mass, bulk, height, and scale, so it is appropriate in that regard. Next slide. Sensitive to adjacent landmarks. Don't know what there are, but it certainly would be because it is a historic resource in its own right. Public views of the ocean and mountains are not affected by this project, nor is the use of open space and landscaping affected by this project. Findings for major alterations to a historic resource. The exterior alterations are being made to restore the historic resource to its original appearance or in order to substantially aid its preservation or enhancement as a historic resource. And the exterior alterations are consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards. Hillside design and slope lot findings. Natural topography protection doesn't have any impact on the topography or grading. Building scale, it still maintains its essential scale and form. Next slide.
That does it, Mr. Chair.
That's it?
Yes.
Oh, I was just getting into it. Okay, so now we'll take a second. Second by Drury. And a roll call vote, please.
Yes, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lundvik.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see,
It's so much
we
more
are,
efficient than it used to be with all these slides, and you're just giving us scripts to read, and
good being here.
yeah.
Zoom stuff is
getting tiring, huh?
Well, he does it on his phone.
They don't get
Oh,
to
that
see
is
my face
exhausting.
either, which is just fine.
Now we have to see you.
Okay, so we are in
Yes,
recess.
I think we will take another recess, Mr. Chair, until 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, let's
Turn-
do a roll call real quick.
Okay,
And then
we'll-
we'll jump to item 2.
Another roll call.
Okay,
sure we
so
didn't
we
leave.
have Vice Chair House.
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Here.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Here?
Commissioner Manuel,
Here.
and Commissioner Uli.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is a concept review for 222 East Canon Perdido Street. The project site is located within the El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District, Part 1, within 100 feet of a designated city landmark eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places, and a structure on the city's historic resources list. The project proposes to construct a new 3- and 4-story residential apartment structure comprising 34 apartments applying the city's average unit density, high-priority housing overlay standards. The building is approximately 25,899 net square feet and 46 feet 9 inches in height. Parking will be provided in a garage structure on the east side of the driveway using a puzzle lift system to accommodate 19 parking spaces. 6 surface parking spaces, including 2 van accessible EV stalls, are provided on the west side of the driveway for a total of 25 parking spaces. A trash recycling enclosure structure is proposed on the east side of the driveway adjacent to the surface parking. The existing commercial office building will remain unchanged. This is a one-time concept review. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Project compatibility findings would be required for project design review approval in the future. So, please introduce yourself and give your presentation.
Chair House. Sorry, I need to recuse myself for conflict of interest
Thank you.
with that.
Thank you, Chair House, and thank you, Commissioners. My name's Christine Perone. I'm the architect for the project, and I'm here along with Trish Allen, who's our planner, and Jeremy Bassan, who's the owner. And you all, I think you all saw this project in its former iteration, its former life as a 7-unit condo project. That was last August. You last saw it. And we had pretty positive comments at the time about the size, bulk, and scale, sensitivity to the resource, which, if I can remind you all, we are adjacent to the outer bastion wall, or the outer defense wall. And so there was a positive momentum that we had at that time. I'm sure you're all aware that the city changed the AUD ordinance and changed the priority overlay location. So with that change, it did happen with this project, this property, and we reconvened as a team and decided that this was a good opportunity to do more smaller units that are rental in the downtown core for housing and step away from the larger condo units. And I'll walk you through this, but we've kept a lot of things the same, but a few things have changed, including that added 4-story that we wanted to come in early and get your early feedback. So, to start, a lot of this is very similar. So we still have the parking garage here at the front that has the puzzle lifts, the surface parking. The trash enclosure has stayed the same, and we still have this kind of pedestrian access through. The office building remains the same. And then here you see is the new footprint of the proposed building. And for reference, I did show in red that outline of what had been the prior review. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important because this relationship to the outer defense wall, we were holding 10 feet back, and you can see in this iteration, we pulled back a little bit more. Some areas we've come forward, but we've actually, in that corner, we've improved that condition. And we like that as a result of the study. I did internalize this lobby area here. We're still studying that a little bit, but it seemed to make sense to put it at the pinch point and give people a living space here at the ends, which is always nice for people to be able to see out, have multiple walls with windows. And in plan, so here's the second floor plan that stacks on the first floor. Here's the third floor plan, and you'll see in this elevation that faces the resource, that we did this pretty much the same elevation. So we did these decks that kind of create a bit of a two-story element relative to the resource, making sure that we were honoring that, how important that is. So that has remained the same. And then here we did decide, given, and I'll show you in the elevations, the scale of the existing office building, that it was potentially a really good opportunity to add this fourth-story element, just because the scale of it is about the same height as the office building, and it's such a slender piece of the, and away from the resource. We thought it was a good opportunity. And so here are the elevations. And this is the one, first of all, that is largely the same as the prior. So it has these deep balconies above, creating kind of a two-story presence, a lot of red tile roof. We're still designing this. Obviously, it's very simple right now. We'll be refining this as we move along. And then here is facing the parking lot. And just as a reminder, this is deeply internal to the site, this project. So this is the parking lot in front of us. So this is pretty internalized. If you remember that before, it's actually hard to see it from the street. But there's that. I'm getting used to doing this now. I learned I had to look at the big screen, not the small one. So here's the elevation kind of facing the parking lot, and it's not shown here, but that's about, I think it's about 4 or 5 feet taller, that parking lot, so the lower floor is really clipped. And here's that elevation that with the red outline is the office building. And this is where we thought, well, this is a good opportunity if we could put some four-story. It kind of relates to the office building and has, limited visual impact to anybody. And here is finally facing, this is facing towards 800 Santa Barbara Street, that project. And so here's the existing outline of the office building, and this is kind of getting expressed as a kind of a tall tower element. And again, deep outdoor living spaces as well here. And the garage changed a little bit. We needed to get 2 more parking spaces with this iteration. So we went with some taller puzzle lifts in this part of the garage. I think it's a better solution because it's a little bit more interesting. Before, if you remember, it was all one continuous roof line. So there's, this piece is taller than this lower one-story piece. It's not quite a full 2-story. And that's how it would be perceived from the streetscape. This little one-story piece stays the same, and then that taller piece beyond. We still are proposing to, reuse the sandstone wall. We have to take it down and push it back, but we will reuse that sandstone and recreate that sandstone wall. And then still studying this, but definitely want a really adorable, wooden gate kind of entrance. Maybe even take the stone arch across the top. Definitely something along those lines. Control 0. And I think that's the extent of our presentation. Trish, did you have anything you need? Jeremy? No? Yeah. Yeah, so that's the update, and we're looking forward to your comments.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I will hand it over to Ms. Tarnovskaya for public comment.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair House and Commissioners. So just as a reminder, if any member of the public in attendance would like to speak on this item, please fill out a speaker slip by the back and bring it to me. But in the meantime, I'll start with virtual public comment. So if any member of the public would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak, and I will call on you. So I can see 2 people have raised their hands, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Michael Imwali. I'm going to go ahead and send you an unmute request, and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Again, my name is Michael Imwali. As with the previous project, the Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation is concerned about the proximity of the project to the archaeological resources, the size, bulk, and scale, as well as impacts to viewshed. With the additional mass, additional residential units, and additional height of the new project, these concerns have been exacerbated. We are also concerned about inadequate parking for the additional residences and existing commercial building. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the last speaker we have with their hand raised is Mary Louise Days. So Mary Louise Days, I'm going to go ahead and send you an unmute request, and you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I am speaking on behalf of myself. It is good to have rentals proposed. However, this is a very important site. The proposed site itself, or the property itself, is elevated already. The project is still close to the Presidio wall. I believe it is too tall for location near the Presidio because it's not necessary. It is unfortunate that 800 Santa Barbara Street is used as a precedent. It should have one parking space for each unit. Please carefully review the architecture, especially in relation to the Presidio, the immediate Presidio area. Thank you.
All right, so at this time, I don't see any more hands raised, so I'll go ahead and move to in-person public comment. I have received one speaker slip from John Dorden, so you can go ahead and come up to the podium.
Thank you. Commissioner House, fellow commissioners, good afternoon. My name is John Dorden. I live in Santa Barbara, and I'm here today representing myself. I have spoken to you before because I am I'll mention, a member of the board of directors and the trustees at the Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation. But today I'm not here on behalf of the trust. I'm just here as a private citizen because I happen to also be in the residential market to try and locate some potential residential units for some members of my family. So that's why I'm here, and I'm just trying to encourage you to ask your normal, insightful, penetrating questions so that I can learn as much about this and the possible suitability of this place. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We haven't received any written correspondence for this item, so with that, I'll turn it over back to you, Vice Chair House.
I believe there was one letter that was in favor of the project.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. So,
okay.
yes, it's from Jennifer Barnes. Thank you.
Okay, I'll close public comment. I have some questions for staff, first of all, just to understand our purview. If I recall correctly, this being an ADU, we can comment on the size, bulk, and scale, but we can't say, you need to take X number of units out of this to get it smaller. Does that apply?
Vice Chair Howes, not to get confused with ADU, the AUD.
I meant AUD.
Yeah, not a problem. We all do that. You have the ability to review it for size, bulk, and scale. I believe the units. Correct. Yes, I believe you are correct in that the reduction in units would not be in your purview.
Okay.
But you're able to look at the size, bulk, scale design.
And then does this parcel exceed a certain trigger square footage where it would need to go to Planning Commission?
It does not. So this would return as a design review project.
Okay.
It would require the Planning Commission concept review. So at first stop is here for its initial design review, concept review. The next stop would be Planning Commission concept review. And then the applicant can submit their application.
And we would have benefit of the Planning Commission's comments from that?
Correct, correct. So they're cross-communicated to each board or commission.
Okay. I also wanted to ask about the parking. What is the parking requirement for the existing office building? And so what does that leave in terms of what is being provided in parking for the AUD?
Correct. I may defer to the applicant just to go over the existing commercial parking requirements. But the AUD component, in other words, the residential component, does not require any parking. Okay. So there's a maximum of one space per residential unit that could be provided. But that would be strictly voluntary. So there is no requirement. Okay. And namely because it's in the central business district.
Okay. So, question to the applicant, does this provide exactly the number of parking units that the commercial needs, or does it also provide some in addition to that?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Chair House. So we're providing 25 parking spaces, and that is the demand, required demand for the commercial. For our application, we are saying we're providing 0 parking spaces for the residential because that's what makes sense for zoning and for the processing. We do know that we're going to be able to cross-use outside of the zoning and the approvals, but just in reality, that we'll be able to cross-use those parking spaces between the residential and the commercial. I've been out at that parking lot many, many times, and I probably see a dozen cars at most at any one time. So we know we're probably overparked, and they're going to be able to successfully use that as a dual use.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. I have a number of questions of staff. And you may not be able to answer them now, but I think we need to understand. When the office building was approved, was there a discretionary review by the Planning Commission?
Through the Vice Chair, Commissioner Lenvik, I don't recall off the top of my head the review process for the original
reason I ask is the project, the office building project was originally approved with parking, with surface parking adjoining, so on and so forth. And if there was an approval, I would, by a discretionary review board, maybe ABR, maybe Planning Commission, I would think that there would be a need to go back and revisit that approval with the change in the kind of parking that's being provided. And I'd like to have that clarified so I understand that we're able to walk away from a parking requirement for the office building without any consideration to the prior reviews and approvals. I'd like to understand that. I happened to be by the site this morning to look at it, and there were 23 cars in the parking lot. I'd be interesting to know how many really use that parking lot on a regular basis, and what the opportunity to use the, what do you call that, parking equipment is for people who come in and want to casually use the office building, want to work there, so on and so forth. I don't believe, as part of your review from the standpoint of what was approved, I don't believe that the parking that is being provided for the office really is usable by the office, and it will have an impact on the adjoining streets. It's inevitable. There were only 2 available parking spaces on the street when I was there this morning.
And Mr. Vice Chair, I just want to say to all the commissioners that we just really want to, for this applicant's sake, we're looking at the aesthetics of the project, and we'll do a full zoning review. This is a conceptual review. As part of the application completeness process, we look at zoning does a full review. We look at prior conditions. We have to look at prior approvals, and we would get through all of that and look at the parking to understand that. But I really want to make sure we're focused on the aesthetics of the project for the applicant to take home.
Mr. Chair, I don't know how we can divorce the use of the site with regard to parking from the aesthetics that we're looking at today. I don't know how you can divorce that.
Well, let's leave it at that it's an issue, and so when they do their subsequent research, then we can have more discussion about it, but maybe for today, we should be focused on the aesthetics.
So we know that this will go to the Planning Commission in one way, shape, or form.
Commissioner Lenvik, it would be in the purview of the commission for the final decision. It would stop at the Planning Commission just for a concept review.
Okay.
However, I will also add that the applicant hasn't formally submitted a full application yet, so it still is in the conceptual stages.
with regard to this being adjacent to landmark structures, the Presidio, is there, and we're being told we can't judge number of units, whatever, we can't make a value judgment on that, which in fact is size, bulk, and scale. Is there no provision in the ordinance which gives some kind of exception to what can be, how it can be reviewed when you're adjoining a historic property? I mean, you can't go and put AUDs up in the fire zone, for instance. Can you put AUDs, right next to historic structures? I mean, is that without decent review?
Sure, it may be possible, but in order to get a definitive response to you, that's something that we'd have to look into to confirm. I just don't know right off the top of my head.
But there are exceptions or exclusions to the limitations on review based on whatever.
There may very well be.
Maybe.
We will learn more.
Correct.
And Mr. Lundbeck, I will add that one of the project compatibility findings for HLC is, how the project affects, is it sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources? So that is one finding that you would need to make for the
Let me
design
add
review
that in the
approval.
previous reviews, we had 3D models to look at to see how it fit in
Yes.
the context, so we'll
Yes.
certainly be seeing
Yes.
that again.
Yes. You cited, the applicant, and I think you did, cited ordinances that no parking is required.
That is correct.
Can you read that ordinance
I
section
can.
to me?
Yeah, so this is from the AUD ordinance, and it's parking specific within the central business district. And projects developed and maintained in accordance with the average unit size density incentive program on lots within the central business district as delineated in a figure that's referenced in the municipal code shall provide a maximum of one off-street parking space per residential unit. The parking space may be covered or uncovered and may be leased separately from the residential unit. All off-street parking spaces associated with non-residential components of mixed-use projects, looks like there's a typo in there, developed under the AUD incentive program shall comply with the parking standards set forth in Chapter 31.75, which are the regular parking regulations. So in other words, the commercial or non-residential parking would need to comply with the normal regulations. With the residential parking, no parking is required, but up to one space may be voluntarily provided.
And doesn't it say in that ordinance that the parking shall comply with the parking ordinance, section 22, yada, yada, yada? And not more than one per unit.
No, it references a figure in the municipal code, and then it says shall provide a maximum of one off-street parking space per residential unit.
Can't you, I'm sure the attorney is listening, but wouldn't that?
They might have already called, part of my interruption.
They don't like
If
me-
they
they don't
were,
like-
they would have already called. Again, I really want to.
Yeah,
think
I understand
the
that. I
point
understand
needs to
that.
go back to the, and Mr. Vice Chair, through you, to Commissioner Lundbeck. It's really like looking at the design that's in front of us today, looking at the location of things, the siting, and being able to go through that. All of this will be addressed in the review process. And so I just want to bring it back to the aesthetics and the site location. Again, the sensitivity to other historic resources adjacent to the site, and to be able to provide comments to the applicant in that regard.
Do you have some more questions?
No,
Stay within
the
those,
regular chair,
guardrails.
the regular chair in where you're sitting now would have told me to shut up.
Well, yeah, he might well have.
You just make more diplomatic.
Well, he may have been more diplomatic with the short.
Okay, are there
Shorthand.
other questions?
I will reserve my questions until we hear from Planning Commission and the staff
Yeah.
on the validity of some of the assumptions that the applicant has made regarding parking.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, so I have sort of a nuts and bolts questions. This is sort of a comments only thing, right? In
Yeah,
effect.
there's no
Yeah.
motion
Right,
involved.
okay. So in one of the, aerial view, looking down on the project, where you showed where the path of the site wall is, does that expand the garden, the landscaping possibilities? Well,
Lower right corner,
yes,
where the wall is.
Yes.
the Historic wall.
so,
other end
so
of the
in
property.
front, yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you know, there's,
Oh,
Go to the left.
go to the left.
Go to the foundation.
To the right end of the
Oh,
property.
to the, oh, I'm sorry.
yes, to
There you
the
go.
east end of the property, yes. So, yeah, there we go. So that path, that dotted line that comes and makes an angle, that's the path of, that's the perimeter of the outer defense, I think. That's where the wall.
That's correct.
Piece of the wall. So are those condos or apartments stepped back further than the original, than what we saw in the first place?
That's correct. If you look at the red line that you can kind of make out here,
So that's where it was before.
Oh, I see,
So
okay.
some places
Hard-
it's moved a little closer, but in other places it's moved back.
Okay.
and in this place, probably the
There's more
most
opportunity
critical,
for landscape.
more landscape and more deference to the
Okay.
outer defense wall.
Can we look at G2 for a moment?
G2.
Yeah, I think it was that.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess this is the same. So that, the building, there's the driveway, right, leading
That's-
in. What's that little shed?
Trash.
That's the
Okay,
trash
that's the
enclosure.
trash, and then that's the garage on the left.
That's the
Okay.
garage on the left.
Yes.
Here's the proposed
And
new,
that's the 4-story.
there's the
And
four-story,
then the rest of the condominium in 3 stories.
three-story rental, and then right there's the peak of the existing office building.
Okay.
This was sketched over a rough 3D model.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan?
I have some questions. Again, some nuts and bolts questions. What's the height of the existing office building?
It is about, let me go over here, that's 94. I think the top of that peak you see right here, yeah, and so this is up at 46.9, so I'm gonna say that's about 44, 43. I can get that exact for you.
Do you have an east-west section through the common deck on the 4th floor? I didn't see one in the packet.
We didn't do sections in this packet yet.
In my memory from the discussions of a previous project regarding protecting the corner of the Presidio wall was that we were concerned about the buffer zone, but that there was also a discussion of deed restrictions when it was a condo project that would ensure protection at least of that. Have you considered measures to both protect and provide access to that archaeological point?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, just as before, we'll continue to be working with our team of experts to decide what is the best approach for how to protect that. You'll be seeing updated archaeological reports and historic reports, I think, that will really address that. I can say that, we feel that the rentals in many ways provide a better opportunity because it'll be a management company that handles the landscaping versus a private individual doing whatever they want in their backyard.
And a question about van accessible EV stalls. And van accessible, I tend to associate with handicap accessible. And my question is, if it's both van accessible but also an EV stall, was to prohibit somebody from pulling in to charge their vehicle when somebody in a van pulls up?
You would still need to be I think the provisions are that there's signage that you have to have an appropriate license plate.
A $245 fine.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay.
Only questions I can think of that haven't been asked. This is 10.5-foot floor to floor, is that what I recall?
Yeah, I believe it's 10 and a half.
And what was the floor to floor in the condo proposal?
Good question. It may have been slightly higher.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the condo, the nature of it.
And let's see, so the four-story element is flat roofed, is that correct?
Some of it has a bit of a roof here.
Okay. But the three-story elements have pitched roofs, so do they have volume ceilings?
So the three-story elements here, that is a mansard type roof, a false roof that goes to a deck beyond. So that'll be a flat ceiling. We always try to get about a 9-foot ceiling.
Okay, so is that a roof deck for use by residents?
For the residents here.
I see, okay. I
And-
see. All right. I can't think of any other questions, so comments?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Just want to ask one question. It's probably been answered, but what we're seeing is that the roughest of rough concepts in terms of the drawings.
Oh, absolutely.
And they'll be manipulated, or we will help manipulate if possible.
And we will certainly be bringing you 3D models.
Yeah,
and
yes,
stuff.
okay, thank you.
Comments?
Chair? Because it's a very quickly drawn and rough concept, I think the only thing I would encourage the applicant to reconsider the parking and be a little more generous in the amount of parking available off-street, because that's a very busy part of town, and I think that would be, without getting into the architecture as presented, but I think that would be something we would very much appreciate as a more generous application of parking. Thank you.
As a diplomatic way of putting it, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jordan.
I have 2 comments. My first comment is that I would strongly encourage you to work with the Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation to ensure protection and access to that critical archaeological site. My second comment is a bit longer. I recognize it is not the purview of this commission to assess the number and configuration of individual units, but the HLC does routinely assess the impact of a building's size, bulk, and scale in relationship to its site and the surrounding neighborhood. It's in fact something we're charged with doing. When I ask myself the question, why does this building have this size, bulk, and scale? The answer seems to be because the AUD program encourages greater density. But greater density is a strategy, not a goal. The description of the AUD program available on the city's website makes it clear that the goal is to encourage workforce and affordable housing. And I ask myself, are 453 square foot studio apartments really a viable solution to the pressing need for workforce housing? There are hotels in the city that have larger rooms than we see in the studios in this scheme. We know what we will lose if it is built. We lose the size, bulk, and scale of the existing area around the Presidio. And when I ask who will benefit from this mix of units, I have trouble saying the local workforce looking for a place to call home in Santa Barbara. And that bothers me. I recognize the dilemma that the architects and the developers face. I really do. State housing mandates privilege quantity over quality. State mandates and AUD overlays make this kind of high-density, small unit development inevitable. It doesn't make it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that kind of sums up my general feeling about the project, that I know we need housing. Commissioner Mahan, former member of our board, said that this is a much better use of parking lot than for parking cars, and I would certainly agree with that. But, you know, I was very comfortable with the condo project proposed, and this makes me uncomfortable, and I have concern about the limited amount of space between the four-story element of this and the existing office building, and it's kind of canyon-like. So, you know, I would wish it was not such a, it was not striving to fit as many units in, but as we know, we cannot limit the number of units to control the mass, bulk, and scale. Anything you can do to reduce that would be appreciated. I was hoping the third floor had volume ceilings and it could have a lower plate on that height on that floor, but I would say I think we're generally not comfortable with the mass, bulk, and scale of the project, but we know it's in good hands architecturally, and we look forward to your formal presentation. Anybody want to add anything to that?
I do. I think it is imposing itself on the Presidio, on the historic structures. It is imposing itself unrealistically and to the detriment of the historic resources in the area. And I would have a difficult time getting behind this for that reason. And I do believe that there is protection someplace in the law, SB 9, whatever, that will protect our historic features of the city, and I have not seen that in this project. When I look at the plan and I see that, yeah, we have only 3 stories facing the Presidio building, what we have is a rooftop use. And in essence, that's a 4-story. By the time you put awnings up there and a trellis structure and people partying or whatever, that's a 4th story. And that use at that elevation, at that height, is really imposing itself on the quiet use of the Presidio. And I would have a tough time accepting this as an appropriate mass, scale, and bulk for this area. It is imposing itself on the existing office building. It is imposing itself on the neighborhood parking. It is doing a real injustice to the community, all with the claim that we're doing this to provide housing. No one has said we have enough water. No one has said we have enough parking. No one has said we have enough parkland. No one has said that. We simply don't have enough housing. And we're blinding ourselves to all other aspects of what happens in this community, what makes this community so good. So I find this to be not an acceptable project as it's presented so far.
Thank you. Anybody else have any further comments?
I suppose I'll toss my 2 cents in. First, I want to give you a little bit of support. I totally agree. It is impossible to divorce the land plan and arrangement from the vertical elements of the building that follows. One drives the other, and the other drives the other. I mean, there's a synergistic dynamic there. So I totally agree with your line of questioning about that. I can't support the bulk of this building. I think it's inappropriate. But what troubles me more is the reliance on a mechanical parking system for the office building that I don't think is practical. You know, mechanical parking systems work well when they're managed. But if I have an office in that building and I'm pulling up to open one of those garages and trying to find it, you know, do I push a button to get slot 3, or you know, how does that? I don't see that being very practical, and the result of that will be a parking impact on the street. People are impatient. You know, they want to be Doris Day. When they pull up to the store, they want a parking spot. You know, they're not going to have patience to do anything else. So I don't see that as a practical solution. So I think parking is going to be a real issue on this project. I'm not comfortable with the fourth floor. And while, as other comments have been said, we really don't have purview over how many units there are, we do have purview over the design of the building and the bulk of the building. And my view would be it has to be lower, it has to be less bulky. And how you achieve that is going to be the artistry of the architects. But until that happens, I can't support this project.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mr. Novskaya, do you need a summary, or you've been busily typing away? I think you've probably got a lot of it.
Yeah, I think I have it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so there's no motion involved in this. So do you need anything more from us? Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing the next iteration.
Mr. Chair, I was in front of the planning commission before that.
I know.
I was doing the comments today.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Next item on our agenda, which will be our last item. And so we are doing okay on time that we can begin this one, correct? So this is 330 State Street, the former Seaside Oil Company. Oh, and this is here for final approval. The former Seaside Oil Company building and showroom, AKA Andalusia Building, is a designated structure of merit and a contributing historic resource to the El Pueblo Viejo Landmark District. Proposal for adaptive reuse of the existing multi-tenant commercial building on a 28,211 square foot site. Site improvements include the conversion of a portion of the parking lot to a covered outdoor dining area, alterations to the landscaping and site screening, and a new trash enclosure and path of travel to meet ADA requirements. Interior improvements include new bowling lanes. I don't remember that from before. New multi-vendor food service counters and indoor dining, and renovation of the existing restaurant and bar. The city's architectural historian prepared a significance report. All reports can be found on the city's website. Final approval is requested. Project plans must demonstrate substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval on July 21st, 2021. Project was last reviewed on July 21st, 2021. So, welcome.
Mr. Chair, if we could read the previous
Okay,
minutes
the
into the
previous
record.
minutes. And I think that I had to leave the meeting, so I did not attend this last review, nor did I watch the video, so I'll run the meeting, but I won't make comments on it or vote on it. So comments were, number one, the overall trellis design is very well done, beautiful, and a great improvement. Number two, the fence along Gutierrez Street shall be ironwork, similar to the ironwork fences on State Street. Three, there are mixed opinions regarding the planter boxes. Some commissioners supported the planter boxes, and some commissioners wanted to see further study. Number four, the current design of the plantings is much improved. However, additional study of the high water use plantings is needed. Number five, the commission made the project compatibility analysis findings, and that they've generally been met. Number six, is required for structures of merit. Per the municipal code, the exterior alterations are being made primarily to substantially aid in the preservation or enhancement of the structure of merit. So the action was made by Commissioner Mahan, seconded by Uli, 6-0-0. Drury, House, and Edmonds were absent, and the motion carried. Presentation time.
That's great.
Our monitors are not on. Nor is that one. It's a major breakdown.
We have real drawings?
Yeah.
Just event.
Real drawings?
Real drawings are great.
Yeah.
Perform charades.
What's that?
Charades.
Yeah.
First floor. Looks like.
Sounds like.
Where paper comes in handy. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it must not be that connection there because nothing's on. So how about on your computer? Is it sending?
We can verbally
Oh,
describe
that's coming
everything,
up.
but you guys, it looks beautiful. You have to turn around with a couple of.
Do you have it on the web, on the laptop?
We do.
Okay, so,
All around the laptop.
yeah. Does it connect from the laptop to these monitors? Or?
Hey, Tony. So when I hit on the wall panel where the laptop on the main display, the screens are just black.
How did you guys used to do this before walls projection?
Well, it
10
worked
years
pretty
ago,
well.
What would have happened? No, but you brought plans in.
We, all separately, we're kind of looking through plans. I mean, somebody's looking at details to make comments on that, and, you know, it worked well.
Many years ago, when Luther Riggs and Robert Inglehoy were here, Robert Inglehoy would open the paper and the two machines.
Yeah, exactly.
Then he would roll it back in again, give Peter Edwards and said, not acceptable, come back next time.
Yeah,
Well, Luther Riggs was sitting place.
yeah. And I remember an applicant explaining his drawings and what the windows are going to be like, and it didn't fare too well. And after the applicant left, Robert Inglehoyt said, "I was taught at school, if you can't draw it, don't try and explain it."
It was a floor show.
Yeah. And the nerve of that man wearing his hat in the presence of women.
Well, let me ask a question of the applicant. Did you, the planters along the edge separating the seating from the drive, are they still rectangular?
We have two kinds. We have a rectangular and a square planter. One
Okay,
is
so,
longer
but
than-
they're not round, or they're not formed, they're
No.
not Spanish, but okay. Did you put metal railing on Santa Barbara Street, on Gutierrez Street?
Yes, we do have a right.
What else was there? The bowling alley was part of the project originally, by the way. So it's a three and a
I
half.
believe you.
It's a 3.5 ball lane.
How do you bowl with half a ball?
Yeah.
With
great skill.
Because erratic, a little erratic, but.
What else was there?
A car museum.
Yeah, what else was there on the list?
We took out all the high water.
Maybe. Can you put the presentation
That was
on
the
the
other question.
big monitors?
Now we have some other few ones.
Oh, okay.
So that's coming from
We're not getting the right feed.
Something's not connected.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's
Our IT
It's
specialist.
different than the problem under here.
can't project this.
We have nothing on our monitors, and she can't get it up on the
It's
big
okay
monitor.
there. This is what we.
Covering is still fabric. I mean, I looked at this and printed it out at home, I didn't bring it. And I'm looking at it on my cell phone, and it's kind of tough to see everything. I could attest to the rest of the board members that this project is approvable.
Okay, well, we just.
Well, that's the I mean, I'm sure you're, okay. So
Allow
let's
you
see.
practicality.
Well, I'm sorry, Ellen, what did you say?
I'm sure the applicant would love that.
Yeah.
The attorney probably won't.
Sometimes if you hit them, they were lures. That's what the moon landing astronauts had to do.
I promised Ms. Kokenda I did not.
Did you touch
I did not
something
kick
down?
anything.
Yeah. Come on, Michael, what'd you do?
Sitting way back. Well, now the light came on. Wait.
Well, I think
Look
the
at Mr.
problem's-
Linda's foot. Commissioner Linda.
I think.
Don't do that. There you go.
Oh,
There
hey.
it goes.
No, it's off again.
We got a picture, do we have sound?
There we go.
All right.
It's that's our weak link over there, so.
Do something
You all
like
have
that.
to, you can point to it and blame one another.
Okay. Well, who has a bigger foot? I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. Well, your 15 minutes are just about up, so.
We'll just go with Commissioner Lenvick. You know, his idea, and we'll just vote.
Well, he's welcome to make a motion, but we need
Well, I think we can
to
do
have a
that.
presentation, we need to open it for public comment, et cetera, et
Correct.
cetera, et cetera. So, ready for the
Yes,
presentation?
let's do that presentation, please.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Vice Chair Howes and fellow commissioners, Ed
Yeah,
Devasene.
Chair Howes.
Chair Howes, Chair of the Day, Howes. Ed Devasene
du
with
jour.
DMHA Architecture. Turn on your mics, introduce yourselves.
Just press, yeah.
Henry Lenny Design Studio.
Guillermo Gonzalez, Blue Studio.
All right, commissioners, I will start actually walking you through just some of the changes. And the primary one is the use of the eastern space. If you have questions about the existing conditions or things, I'm really just going to focus on what's changed since last time and then responses to the comments you made last time. Just because there's a bit of detail to go through. So I'll just jump ahead more quickly. So, yeah, starting, the biggest change is just the use of this portion of the building. It's now no longer a bowling alley. We're changing it to an event space. So we'll have a temporary stage. We've rearranged some of the restrooms, and then we have a bar in this area. And then the rest of the restaurant area is really the same with some minor reconfigurations. But as it is important for this commission, we really only made minimal changes to the exterior, and I'll walk you through those in a little more detail on the floor plans. I'll come back to some of the enlarged features. So with the change to an event space, we had to reconsider the exiting. And so the main change for you all is along Gutierrez Street here, we've had to add, or we've taken the proposed exit from this portion and shifted it over to the northeast corner of the building just to create additional separation for building code. So there is some grade difference here, and so we're dealing with it 2% and then a sloped walk, but we're able to get there. We've also added a little ticketing office with a window along Gutierrez as well. It's really the changes to the building. On the site, then we had to look at exiting and security from the site itself because just a larger number of patrons. So we now have a gate here, self-closing gate, non-latching, just so we can have a control point for when events are here and we're moving people in and out of the space. We've also added a gate on this portion from the restaurant portion, from the covered loggia area, coming out to the State Street side. There wasn't enough room to put it at State Street, so we've tucked it back to where our planter and fire pit area is. And similarly, this will just be a self-closing gate, non-latching. Some of that hardware on short gates is, with panic, is kind of impractical. Anyways, you can reach right over and open things. So we're keeping it really simple. And those are really the main changes from what you saw last time. So the rest is really about lighting and just all the final details and materials. So there's enlarged plans of the trash enclosures if you want to see. It's a full set. We talked about mechanical screening last time, no changes there, but again, just for brevity, I'll kind of pass that, but we can certainly look at it if there's questions. For some
Hate it
reason,
when it does that.
the little hand is trying to pick things rather than move around.
If you hit escape, it will get you out of
I want
She used the pointer, yeah.
That one.
You want the hand? I don't think so.
It's being a
Try
bad-
the pointer.
It's being a bad hand. Oh, that one's too fast. That makes me
Now it's working.
nauseous. Okay, so we'll walk through the elevations just to talk about the lighting strategy. And then we do have a lighting schedule as well. So on the State Street side, within the loggia, there's some existing custom glass hanging pendants. We want to keep those. We've got a photo of it we can pull up. And there's some existing sign lighting. We're just going to keep those as well. We'll come back for full signage later. The trellis structure really hasn't changed. We do have some string lights that we're proposing under that, and we'll show that to you in reflected ceiling plans. And then the outdoor corner dining area also has some string lights. There's some existing string lights there. We're just going to reconfigure. So I'll let Guillermo walk you through some of those changes. So here, additionally, you can see, we'll get into some of the details of the gate towards the end, but we also took the railing along State Street, our custom railing, and we've added that here at the planter as well, just so people aren't walking over this 20-inch wall into the planter area. So just kind of directing traffic a little. Turning the corner and going on to the property. Again, here you can see the string lights under the under the dining trellis. We have some new fixtures at every one of the entry and exit doors. It's a Barcelona style fixture. Continuing down the elevation. Again, 2 more Barcelonas on either side of the main side entrance. The loggia continuing there with the string lights. This is the door into the back bar area with the new Barcelona style fixture. It's our type A. It's a long building, so. Continuing along where we have our roll-up door and our other door near the, and these are exits, required exits. So again, we have another fixture, more decorative type. There's an existing light. It's just downcast. We'll just replace. We've got a cut sheet for that. And then here along Gutierrez, where the ticket window is, here you can see what we're proposing there, and the exit door I mentioned. We've got some gooseneck kind of RLM style fixtures along this building here, along this facade. And in the background, again, we've mentioned some of the mechanical screening. You can see it here on the plans. No lighting proposed on the backside. It's really just the neighbor's parking lot and sidewalk, so they have other lighting in that area. I'm skipping over the building sections. Really, I'm just going to jump to kind of the lighting so you can see that in more detail. So here's our material board. We'll take a look at some of the colors. We'll taking a peek at the fixtures. Here's that gooseneck RLM along Gutierrez. There's 4 fixtures. These will probably be a dark bronze. 2700 Kelvin is what we have for all the temperature of these. Our utilitarian kind of wall pack light here is just a couple of those. The string light specification. Oh, we've gone back to the box. Oh, there we go. And our wall-mounted Barcelona style
Those light
fixture.
fixtures have a type A personality.
And again, 2700 Kelvin, these are LEDs with, they're hidden, so we're not going to be seeing bulbs. And then we've got the arm style and again, the dark bronze in the finish. And some of the existing fixtures to remain, we've got these blown glass pendants and also one along the north facade, this glass and iron fixture as well we'll keep. And then a little step light, I think this is at our trash enclosure area. far as colors, the main trellis structure is this anonymous color.
From the solar panels.
The painted brick and any of this existing stucco will just paint to match the existing. It's close to this nebulous white. It's a semi-gloss. The awning at the main entrance, we have a black and white stripe, this umbrella. And then the Roman shades on the trellis itself, we have this vinyl tan open mesh. And those are really the main colors. The door and window details you saw last time, there's really no changes to those. Our trellis detailing, I believe you saw that last time as well. And again, any of these three questions, we can go through in more details. The awning details and the custom railing along State Street as well, and our finial. These were all in there last time as well. Standard details or construction in the door and window. And I think that's really architecturally just the overview. I want to give Guillermo time to talk about the site lighting and the landscape, and most of the comments you had last time were related to that. So let me jump to the landscape sheets. It's thinking about it. All right, Guillermo.
The only change that happened in the design due to the interior change is.
Could you make sure your microphone's on? Is the green
Hello?
light on? Oh,
Yes.
there it is.
The only change we have done to the landscape due to the interior changes is eliminating a planter on the, can you point to the location? On that location, everything else is still remain the same layout. We took one of the comments about articulating those planters more, so we have two types of planters. One is 24 inches high, rectangular, and the square ones are 36 inches high and 36 inches by 36 inches, and they support taller plant material. And then we detailed the railing and gates along Gutierrez, so we can show that, but that's the only changes on the plan. So if we can go to the next detail, we can look at section elevation of the planters. The two types, they're basically oak wood with metal support. And if you go to the railing detail, which is on the same page, we had a cross section of the railing and an elevation. And then we are screening that fence with planting on both sides. So the idea is that eventually you just see a green mass, not necessarily the fence itself. So if we can look at the elevation of the gates, the two vehicular entry gates take clue of the planters. They're also oak wood with a metal frame, all in black color. And there's an elevation here of the fence, which is very simple with the post and rail, and then we have a screen to allow the planting to, the vines to grow on it. And that's the pedestrian gate. They're all very low to keep with the view triangle. And then if we can then go to the next page.
Oh, wow. Let's go back to this one. Yeah, I got it. It's just my fingers.
No, it's Microsoft.
Here's the
There we go.
the lighting plan. So we basically replacing most of the outdated lighting that is on site. So it was incandescent halogen lighting, so we're replacing it with LED. If you can zoom a little bit out so we can look at the light fixture too. So the stream lights on the corner plaza. It's going to be the small little pendant light on the right. That all natural bronze finish, so the patina will get dark like the one in the middle. And then we're adding pendant lights from the trees, and you can see the model in there, which is the longest piece. And the rest of the lights on the trees, they're there now. So if you point to where the palm trees are, there are currently some downlight there that we replace them with LED lighting, same style of fixture, but LED. And then we also adding some stream light on the parking lot, and you can see that, and it matches what the architect has. Again, they're 27K. The balls are antique balls, and it's just about 10 feet high. We adding some poles, tall poles along the fence that match the trellis fence, and that's how we attaching the light across the parking area. If you can zoom out, we can just go over the images. There's the stream light on the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can go to the next page. It will be all the cut sheets. Then we can go to the next slide. Sorry, the next page. There will be the irrigation. It's all drip irrigation. We are conforming with Willow calculations. We are below the required water for the site, as you can see. So we're 84%. We're using 84% of what is required for the site. Then we can go to the next one. It's just the irrigation details. And then we can go to the planting. So on the planting, we eliminate all the high water use plants. We obviously conforming with Willow. And we, like we mentioned, we took out the planter against the building on the east side. Otherwise, it's very similar, pretty much what we had before. We're keeping a lot of the palms around side, and we're relocating some of the tree aloes along the fence along Gutierrez. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, be glad to answer.
Let me pull up the minutes and make sure we addressed each item throughout the presentation. Number 1 was from last time. That's fine. The fence along Gutierrez, ironwork, similar to ironwork on State Street. So we chose different here. We showed you both of those details.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't think having it as ornamental as State Street and having it get grown into the planting was appropriate, but we detailed it simply, but still nice. So that's how we dealt with that. Mixed opinions on the planter boxes. Some commissioners supported planter boxes, some wanted to see further studies. So this was really about, do we put in-ground planters? And the whole idea of this building and the space is to be flexible and multifunction in use. That's what the rolling gates are for as well, for special events where we might close off the parking area and have taco trucks or other specialty kind of vendors come in. Then we might be moving these planters around to have a more open use of a flow of people of the entire hardscape area. So that's the reason you have so many planters. That was the strategy. We didn't really talk to that much last time. These presentations get full of a lot of information. So, and then the planting design is improved, and then additional study of high water use, which we did. Guillermo walked you through that. And everything else was just related to compatibility and historic. So I think that covers, all the pieces. Definitely, there's a lot there. Feel free to ask any questions. We're excited for this project, you can tell. We have a lot of fun working on this one. We look forward to your comments, and hopefully, it's good enough for a final approval. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes your presentation. I'll turn it over to Ms. Tarnowskaja.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. So starting with virtual public comment, if any member of the public would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak, and I will call on you. All right, so I don't see any hands raised for this item. Moving on to in-person public comment, I haven't received any speaker slips, and we haven't received any written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Vice Chair House.
Thank you. I will close public comment and turn it over to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, I have questions that are generally directed at everybody. Are string lights appropriate?
I don't think they're prohibited. Blinking lights are prohibited.
Okay.
And we're seeing them more
What
and
about
more.
tube steel on the fencing? I understood tube steel to be kind of a no-no in El Pueblo Viejo.
Are you talking about the railings
Yes,
along State
yes.
Street? Are they tube steel, or is it just
on
these
State Street.
posts?
Is-
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it said tube steel in one of the call-outs.
Talking about the fence along Gutierrez.
Gutierrez.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
That's a square tubing, yes.
Usually for those larger post members, those are tubular.
Okay.
Are those have round corner, or can you get them in
No,
square?
that's square.
They're square corner? Okay.
Okay. And then I guess I'll just save the rest for comments.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Let's go into comments. Do you want to just roll
I guess
forward
roll
here?
right. Yeah, there's really not a mock-up of what the black and white striped awning looks like. You don't have anything.
Does it show on an elevation somewhere?
we have a section
Yeah, I saw the section, but
in
I
an
don't-
elevation too.
Well, while you're looking at that, I'll just ask another question. The string lights, are they meant to be permanent? I mean, are you?
For 50 years or for a year? Or?
Well, you know, not for just, like being put up willy-nilly, so to speak. I'm assuming that they're integral part of your lighting
Yes.
project.
Chair House and Commissioner Drury, let me clarify that a little bit. We've got multiple things going here at once, so it's doing that thing again.
Got for that blue.
Yeah, something with this page. Not sure what it is.
So those
Let's look at
string
the
lights are-
elevation first. I want to get to this
Is
awning.
that the awning on the right there?
It
Yeah.
is, but
It's fighting you.
What is the color of the drape awning in
Beige.
the Charles beige? Okay.
Yeah. What happens if you try the pointer
Supposed to be canvas color.
instead of the hand?
Original, natural canvas color. That's the closest we can get to.
so this is the black and white stripe awning here. So there's only one
That's
awning.
down the ways from the corner of Gutierrez and State Street.
Correct.
And that's the only awning, striped awning.
That's the only striped awning.
And you have it there, must be some sort of an accent reason why you have it there. Is it to focus the attention on that particular,
Entrance.
huh?
Yeah, the idea is just to have a feature which would say, this is the entrance, this is the main entrance.
Okay.
Although technically it's not the main entrance, but
But it's an entrance to a big space.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
It's
Those are-
punctuation.
Those are my questions and comments.
Commissioner Ledbeck.
Yes, I think it's a good project, I really do. The awnings, I'm not excited about the black and white striped awning, and I think you probably gotta find another solution to it. The other thing about the awning is, go back to that elevation that you were on. The other thing about the awning is you've drawn it the way a draftsman would draw an awning. You've drawn the bottom of the flaunce at the head of the transom. And awnings are down below. The flaunce is down below. The awning is set down. And that awning has got to settle down. It's got to be lowered down to fit in right. I mean, you should drop that whole awning down probably 2 feet or more. Give it protection over the door, but get that flaunce, that edge down.
By flaunce, you mean the balance?
The balance, yeah. Yeah. Get it down. It's not the proper position. And if that's the only one that we're seeing on there, then we don't have to go and look any further. But that's got to be brought down. My other my other comment is, I have no problem with the string lights. I think it's European. It's necessary for the entertainment quality of the building, of the architecture, of the events going on there. I think it's a good deal, and we should live with it. We don't need flashing ones. We don't need outside TV screens, you know, like we see in some places on State Street, you know. But I think they are appropriate. I hope you have enough lighting. Dining on up on Straight Street further recently, and walking along L'arcada Court, along L'arcada on Figueroa Street. That building owner has added spotlights. On the, you know, it's okay, because if you didn't have them, you know, the distance between these beautiful Santa Barbara streetlights is so far apart that you're walking in the dark.
Yeah.
And it really felt comfortable to have those cone spotlights down every 10 feet or whatever, over the windows, whatever, and it lit the sidewalk. And I believe it lit the interior courtyard as well. You want to have enough light that people feel safe and comfortable, and both from the standpoint of what's happening there and the users, whatever. So I'm saying, make sure you got enough light. I'd rather see more light, subtle lighting, whatever, to light the outside area, so that no place there is dark. No place is dark.
But don't overlight.
Well, don't overlight, but make sure you got enough light that it feels safe. Because like I say, I really felt quite safe on Figueroa Street. It was in the winter or whatever, and it was dark out after dinner. We walked along, you know, Figueroa from State on down, and those lights were there, and you felt comfortable. And I knew you would not feel that comfortable if you were relying only on the street lights. So, overlight to the extent that you can make Steve House happy by not overlighting too much. So I think find another color for the awning, get the awning down, and I'm 100%.
Other comments?
The original comment about the pots or the planter boxes was my comment, and it was just that there were so many. I think there's 38 of them, and it just seems it's become a major landscape element. Typically pots are accent pieces, so a few here and there, but this divides the whole section in half, or the whole site in half. So I stand by my comment from last time. It just seems like way too many pots. I'm not opposed to the pot that you're using. I'm not opposed to using them in some of the areas that you are. It seems 38 just seems too many.
I have a question along those lines. Are you having so many because you don't want people to walk between planters and control, use it as kind of an edge or a wall?
We having them to separate. There's the parking area with crowd, and then there's the seating restaurant
But
area.
the distance between planters, I mean, they seem
Correct,
like they're
we don't
pretty
want
close,
people
so
to
they
walk.
look like a wall, so you're trying to keep people from
Avoid people, correct. And also that way, by separating traffic area from pedestrian area, we don't have to have a truncated dumps that extend the entire length of the park.
And I'm not opposed to blocking the area off. It just seems like using the planter boxes looks kind of like they would at a carnival, you know, a temporary barricade to demarc a space that seems intentional with this new arbor and trellis.
I think from a standpoint of being able to move them, that it makes sense that they not be too big. And it's, you know, you got small tables, you got large tables, and you got small planters, you got large planters, and it's there. They can configure those planters. Maybe they put them in a slight arc, as opposed to a straight line. I mean, they can do things with them that give some flexibility to the outside dining area, and I really have no problem with what they're proposing.
Other comments? Justin, did you have any other comments?
That's it.
Mr. Chair, I've liked this project since it came before us in the first place. I think it's going to be a great improvement to that particular area of town. I'm not a great fan of black and white awnings, though. I think you should rethink that black color. You know, you have this marching pattern of terracotta tiles traveling across the facade. Maybe use that color as a way to tie in and get away from the black. Otherwise, I think you've done a great job.
Any other comments?
You'll never see those terracotta tiles. I mean, they're hidden by the flat awning. They're hidden by the trellis, hidden by the structure. You know, you're never gonna see them. It's a nice piece of architecture, I guess, but it's not critical.
Okay. So it seems to me the issues were with the placement of the awning and that it should come down, and the color black and white stripes versus another color. Seems to me that we could wrap things up if you were to tell us what color you would change the awning to, and that could be in the minutes.
Teal blue.
What's that?
Teal blue.
Sounds kind of boring. I'm sure you'd rather not come back on consent for approval of a color, so.
The thing about, Mr. Chair, the thing about awnings is that they will, if they're canvas, they're going to be replaced every 3 or 4 years. And we'll never see them again, and they may be solid color today, and they may be, you know, a stripe down the road, and we probably aren't going to lose a lot of sleep over it. But I think we ought to get a color today that we're happy with. And
Okay, is
if you-
everybody okay with teal blue?
Yeah, teal blue's
Teal
fine,
blue.
yeah.
Yeah, bounces off the terracotta.
Yeah.
It's a nice combo, warm and cool, and
So I'd move for final approval. Do we have to make findings?
No, the findings have already been made.
Been made, right. So
Second.
I'd make a motion for final approval
Okay, motion by Lenvik and second by Uli.
with the condition that the awning on the north elevation be dropped down so that it's,
Maybe the valance
Valance.
is at the top of the door opening.
yeah, the balance is the top of the door and in that proximity,
Uh-huh.
and that the awning be solid,
Solid teal blue.
teal blue, and wish you Godspeed.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second voice vote. Roll call.
Yes, thank you. So I'll start with Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
No, only because of the number of pots. or pots.
and Vice Chair House.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Oh, actually, I can't vote on it.
You didn't review.
Right, thanks.
You didn't review.
Yeah. Okay. So I
It's still a-
abstained.
It's still a majority, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's correct,
Not
yes.
a problem. Motion passes. Okay, well.
Before we close that item, is there not, do we need an announcement for appeal?
Oh, okay. This is appealable to city council within 10 days.
Don't want to have to come back and do that again.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, I didn't faint.
No, you did a great job.
And
Thank
Chair
you.
House, if you could officially adjourn the meeting, that would be great.
Oh, yes. No, let's stay here a while. Let's have another recess. Okay, I will adjourn the meeting.
Either Ed, Ledbeck, or